Hi everyone, my name is Sara Bell. I wanted to share a little bit more about me, my journey, and my why for starting Strive to Thrive coaching. As some of you know, I resigned from my corporate position after 20 years working in global leadership positions within the life science and biopharmaceutical space at the end of March. And since that time, I've really been reflecting on my career journey and my experience with burnout. And I wanted to walk you through that a little bit because thinking about it, I wondered to myself, at what point did I go from this highly engaged, energetic, motivated, excited employee who was optimistic about their future as a leader to someone that was emotionally exhausted, very negative, frustrated, cynical, and even disillusioned with her job and wondering if her values aligned with what she was doing anymore. And so I think a lot of people can relate to this right now. And so when I reflected and I thought back on how this has happened and when this transition occurred, I truly believe a lot of it had to do with the pandemic. So in May of 2019, I took a huge developmental step and opportunity to lead a 9-figure business at a large life science company. I was the global head of marketing for this business that supported the biopharmaceutical industry. And I was apprehensive about taking the role because of normal fears that many people experience when taking a big role, right? Fear, self-doubt, imposter syndrome. Can I do this? Am I the right person for the job? But ultimately, I had such a big vision for this business, and I felt I could make a real impact, not only to the business, but for the teams working and supporting that business. And for the first 6 months, all was going really well. I built a sense of psychological safety and a sense of team. I established credibility and built a strong reputation with my business partners. And I successfully developed and got endorsed a new business strategy. And we were moving into execution when the pandemic hit. And the pandemic completely rocked our business. We went from a business growing 20% year over year, which is already a lot, and it's just skyrocketed from there. The government was issuing funds to companies to produce COVID vaccines at a mass quantity, and our products were being used for those vaccine processes, and we couldn't keep up with demand. We didn't have any processes in place to triage and prioritize orders, and so daily I was being inundated with requests and fire drills and the need to make very critical business decisions from all parts of the organization, right? And at the same time, I was trying to support my team with what was going on in the world, right? We're all being forced to work from home. We're all trying to figure out childcare and take care of neighbors and parents and family members through this health crisis. Meanwhile, there's political unrest in the world, right? All of these things. And at the same time, I have 2 young kids, a kindergartner and a 2nd grade, and we're trying to figure out virtual learning here at home. And what happened is work just got so intense. People weren't commuting to the office, right? So meetings got started earlier and earlier. It wasn't uncommon for me to start my day at 7 a.m. on calls and be back-to-back calls all day long until 4 or 5 p.m. Meanwhile, that put the burden on my husband to try and figure out virtual learning for our children. And as a mom, I had a lot of guilt around that because I wasn't there to support them. And I was putting that burden on him. Meanwhile, he had a job to be doing as well. And so that was really hard. And what happened is as much as I had tools, thankfully I had already been, built strong behaviors with exercise. And so I was doing self-care, I was exercising, I was walking, I was trying to journal, I was trying to connect with my family and my friends. But mentally, I just couldn't shut work off. It just took over my mind. I had an inability to stop thinking about work, even when I wasn't supposed to be working. and I couldn't emotionally disconnect. I just couldn't. And I got to the point where I was at a breaking point. And unfortunately, I think this is what happens a lot with high performers is it's almost that they wait till it's too late to ask for help because they don't want to be seen as weak or incapable, or if they ask for help or support, this will hurt them in the future for opportunities. And those were some of the things going through my mind that prevented me from asking for help sooner and prompted me to just keep working through it. Sara, you can get through this, you can do this. But I couldn't. I really couldn't. And so I went to my boss and I said, I'm at a breaking point, and he helped me get a coach. And so I worked with a coach for the next 6 months and thankfully was able to work through a lot of the mental blocks and fears that were happening in my mind to help me emotionally detach and better disconnect from work. But for me, that all had come a little bit too late because I wasn't proactively armed with the mindset and the skills and the behaviors to get through this challenging time. I had already made the decision that my future was not in corporate America. And so I had, at that point, hatched an exit plan. And 4 years later, was able to implement that exit plan and leave my corporate job. But everything is a blessing in disguise because what it has allowed me to do is now found this organization, Strive to Thrive Coaching, where my mission is to proactively support, coach, mentor individuals who are looking to grow in their career so that they have the right mindset and the right tools and the right strategies and the right support to handle these situations, challenging situations, as they advance in their leadership and as they take on more scope and responsibilities. Because I truly believe if I had been given a coach or some one-on-one support when I first started that role, which was a huge development jump for me, then I really believe that I would have been armed with the right tools to get through that challenging and unprecedented time and continue my leadership growth within that organization. And this is the real impact with burnout. It's a crisis. It's contagious and it's spreading like wildfire in organizations. And the result is that organizations are losing talented individuals, particularly women, who are seeking alternative ways to make a living or just leaving the workforce altogether because of burnout. So this is a serious problem, and Strive to Thrive was founded to support individuals as well as organizations in helping develop leaders and give leaders the right mindset, the right stress management and energy management tools and techniques, breaking through the mental blocks and the irrational fears, learning to find your identity outside of work and rediscover yourself, and to reevaluate your definition of success so that you can thrive both in your career and in your life. And the more leaders that are equipped with these things, the more that they will lead from a place of well-being. And they will incorporate and integrate these well-being aspects into their leadership, which will create ripple effects in organizations and ultimately change culture, which is what we need. This isn't an employee problem. It's not a leadership problem. It's a cultural problem. And until we change the culture of organizations, burnout will continue to be a crisis. And so, if any of this resonated with you, if you find that you cannot emotionally disconnect from work, that you're constantly having racing work thoughts on nights, on weekends, you're not sleeping because these things are worrying you and keeping you up, you don't know how to set effective boundaries and communicate them, you don't understand how to prioritize your workload, you don't understand how to have a conversation with your boss or your colleagues, and you're afraid that by doing these things, your reputation and your success will be impacted, I'm telling you there's a better way, and I can help you, and that's what Strive to Thrive was founded to do. So reach out. I'm happy to have a complimentary discovery call with you, or come in and speak with your organization to see how we can roll out this type of group on one-on-one support for your teams, your high performers, and your emerging leaders.